We are so fortunate to have a chemist and a doctor in our very own Super Patch family. Walk you through our 14 incredible patches that are touching lives around the world. And I've asked Carrie Dean, who is a fun storyteller with integrity, a nurse, and a team leader building her incredible team, to introduce Dr. Janet and Lissa Dulany to you all.
It's a pleasure. I'd like to introduce to you first Lissa Dulany. She's our speaker for tonight. Lissa is from Delaware in the United States, and she is an organic chemist, think molecules, and she was in that field for 20 years in product research and development and in management. And then she opened a small real estate business of her own. Is an entrepreneurial spirit there, and she's been involved in network marketing for 10 plus years. She is a cat person like me, and I can remember in her last state she lived in, which was Florida, she was a volunteer firefighter. That was something I always talked about. Lissa, she is not afraid of anything, and she's brilliant, and she's very sincere, and I'm really thrilled that she's going to be your main teacher tonight. Right at the end of Lissa, we have Dr. Janet Jeffs, who's a chiropractor from Manhattan, and I'll talk more about her next week. But one thing I can say about Janet is when I met her as a chiropractor and talked to her about network marketing, she had not had a vacation in 23 years, and she saw this kind of business as a way to have a vacation. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Lissa.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I've known Carrie for now 10 years because we were in another company together. So two things that Carrie said you cannot hold against me, okay? One is that I'm a cat person because I've also had dogs in my life, and my most recent dog was a cat person too. So just saying, we're good. And the other thing is I actually do have a doctorate in chemistry too, but I don't put doctor in front of my name because I don't play one on TV. So, and I'm one of those instead. So I'm going to talk about products tonight. And the way I'm going to talk about it is when I first got started, there were these sheets, you know, with all these different things on them. And we carried them around. And it was all the patches that we had at the time, which was 12. And what I did is I made a little booklet because I'm organized sort of that way. And on each page of the booklet, I put one of these little, you know, things so that I could then write down, as I heard people's testimony about the patches, I could write them here so that I didn't have to try to remember them here. So I'm better at that now. So I'm going to talk about the patches, and it's going to be really pretty limited because we do have limited time tonight. But what I'm going to talk about is, first off, if you haven't ever seen this, there are now new versions of it, but it has really good descriptions of what our patches are. It talks about things, it's all compliant stuff, and find them. We can post it again. Janet now has a new one that's got all 12 of them on, or 14 now. So anyway, we're going to start with Defend. It's one of my favorite patches. It's also in alphabetical order, just because that's how I can find it in here when I'm looking for it. I call Defend my invisible mask because I wear it every day, and it does keep me from catching things. And I've heard stories from Judith and other people who have been involved, who've been in big parties, and everybody else got sick and they didn't. And I'm the same way. I did eventually catch COVID after like 3 years, but it was very mild. I only felt sort of sick a day, and it was great. And I really call it my invisible mask. And what Tommy was talking about, I will show you a picture that he actually posted on Facebook. That's the before and after picture. It's actually, I think, in our Facebook group. The one is before and the one is after. One of the things that's really important to know about the Defend patch is that it balances our immune system. Because some people make the mistake of saying it enhances your immune system. It doesn't. Because most of the problems that we have that are immune related is because our immune system is so powerful, it gets cranked. And so like when you get an over response to a bug bite or, you know, in inhalation stuff, it's because our system is so strong, it's overreacted. So what Defend does gets it back into balance. And I've given it to folks who have had, were out at the beach and got too many mosquito bites and they were just itching like crazy, and it does calm your system down. So that's something that's really important to know. Focus, because it's next in alphabetical order. Focus is something that really enhances that focus. When I was first introduced to it, several of the folks on this call were talking about having to drive long distances, and it really helped them to focus in traffic. And I had a dear friend who was having to drive an hour and a half to doctor's appointments with her husband. She was one of these folks, she still is, one of these folks that distracts very easily. And I said, Amy, you need this patch. She's been using it ever since. I use it every time I'm driving, like from the airport at night when it's raining. I mean, why is it always raining at night when you're driving from the airport? I don't know. It really does help. It helps focus. It doesn't, the first time I used it when I was driving, I decided that I would buy a cup of coffee in case it didn't work. I didn't have to use it. So I could go to sleep when I got home because you just take the patch off and go to bed. Freedom patch is the next one. We hear a lot about freedom. The thing that we need to know, everybody needs to know about pain, is that we're all different. And we've all hurt ourselves differently or damaged ourselves differently as we've, lived our lives. And so sometimes freedom works immediately. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, sometimes a couple of months. But there are several folks on this call who can tell you stories about, I used it and now I don't have to. And also getting off of medication, just like we heard some tonight. Liberty also helps freedom work better. My sister has serious issues with her back. And when she put both of them on, she said, I can actually feel them interacting. It was like, because she understands feelings in her body and stuff like that. And she was just freaked out. It was like, oh my God, it's like they're talking to each other. The Ignite patch, alphabetical, remember? The Ignite really helps us who are of a certain age where our metabolism has gone to sleep. And it really does help with enhancing our using more calories, including at rest. I think it really helps me to, because I use this a lot too. It helps me not to have an interest in some foods that I used to have an interest in, which, hey, that helps a lot. There are several people that have told stories about Ignite actually losing a lot of weight. I think it's just helping me not gain any weight. That's the way I look at it. The Joy Patch, Carrie is one it's one of her favorites. I actually haven't used the Joy Patch that much because I'm generally pretty happy. But again, it's something that you can get in an emotional boost because all these patches are working with our nervous system and they're working with different nerve networks. Each patch works with a different network, as you've heard. And so there's one that really does enhance happiness. And it's called, there are drugs that do that, but why use drugs? The serotonin stuff. Kick It is one that helps with the Ignite patch. Let's just say that. It just helps with that too. It helps kick bad habits. But it also, from what I've understood about it, is that you really have to kind of want to kick the bad habit too. It's not going to make you start to want to kick the bad habit. It will help you along the way. Okay, now we're to the Mac Daddy, as I call it, the Liberty patch. It's like your mainframe, and all the rest are apps. Liberty helps with everything. And the list that's on the chart that you see, strength, energy, balance, and stability, we all talk about. That's the one that you use to do the balance test. Range of motion, faster recover, and then faster recovery, that homeostasis. That big word that really means so much. One of the things that I was very fortunate. I was able to go to the conference we had in Florida in January with a couple of the folks that are on my team. And we got to hear Jay, we got to hear one of the medical doctors and a couple of people. And it was really fascinating. And one of the things that I learned there is that chemistry is old school. So yes, I learned a lot of chemistry, but apparently it will do me no good anymore because our patches are really based on physics. And that I hated physics. I'm sorry. I just hated physics. We used to have bumper stickers that said, I survived physical chemistry, because we hated physics. But our bodies are based on physics because we are electrical. We are electrical. And so all of these little neural networks we're talking about, it's electrical, that's physics. And the other piece that I heard at the Florida conference from one of the doctors was that one of the reasons why the pharmaceutical companies are so upset with us is because they try to fix us after we're broken. And what our patches do is try to keep us from getting more broken. And what Jay's an overall eventual goal is to keep us from getting broken at all by some of the preemptive type things. And a lot of these patches are preemptive in a way. Once they've helped us, then they can keep it from happening again. Liberty and defend, they clear the channels. You've heard that term before, maybe. Another thing I've heard, I love these little sayings, and that's why they're written in here, because I can't remember them. They clear the channels and decode our bodies so we can recode, because that's part of what's happened. We break, and then you can think about it with the freedom patch and pain, because pain is really good. Pain is really an important sense that we have, where you feel it. Darn, I didn't mean to hit my elbow like that. Okay, I hit my elbow. Okay, now I hit my elbow. Stop hurting. And that's what happens in our neural networks with pain. They're like, did you get the message? Did you get the message? Aren't you still hurting? Yes, I'm still hurting. Stop it. And so that's one of the things about the freedom patch is like, okay, yes, I got the message. Yes, I shouldn't have done that. But now please stop telling me that, because I got the message. And that's one of the things at the freedom patch. That's the way I look at the freedom patch. And that's what I tell people. One of the things that Liberty did, this woman I told you about who had to drive her and her husband to doctor's appointments, he had some major issues. And one of the things, we were having lunch one day and we were talking about the patches. They were using Liberty and Freedom, and she was using also the Focus. And he said, I can feel my toes now. And she looked at him like her, the jaw drop. And it was because he had edema and some other issues. And he said, honey, I didn't tell you this, but when you're putting my socks on, it's like you're putting a sock on a board. I know you care. I know you love me, but I'm not feeling it. And now I can feel my toes. And it was the Liberty doing that. And literally, she was just amazed. It was a really cool story because she hadn't even heard it yet. Another of my favorites, Lumi. This one you will also hear massive testimonies about, because it's about skin. And like Branka says in the video, it's the biggest organ in our body. We know it helps with skin blemishes. And that's the best way to say it, but they're great pictures. Tommy posted one recently that was neck issues. There are all sorts of blemishes on the neck that did go away. I have had issues. I had silly little bug bites, and the Lumi really helped clear up my skin. The Defend helped stop them from itching, and the Lumi helped clear up the skin. The other thing that Lumi helps with is, and this came from the doctor too, it helps with GI issues. And we'll just put it like that, because our internal GI tract, it's skin. Skin is not just on the outside of our body, it's on the inside of our body too. And so Lumi does really help with the GI issues. Peace, another favorite patch. I don't use it that much because I have cats, and so I'm kind of but I've used it several times. When you think about somebody who might need the peace patch, think about stress. Think about something that might be of stress to them. And I can tell you several stories that I have from folks that I have given the peace patch to, and now use it extensively. And they are all over the map, but it's the same basic principle. I have a dear friend who had to get multiple MRIs one day, and they freak her out. She takes that V whatever pill just because she gets freaked out. And she said, sometimes I have to take 2 or 3 and then it's hard to get me back in the car. And I said, you need the peace patch. You need the peace patch. And she called me that morning. Said, I'm already agitated. Should I put it on now? And I said, yeah, put it on now. And I said, and take one of the pills just because I'm not sure how well it's going to help you. And she called me back later and went, it really worked. It really worked. And it was chill. And so that's I've been talking to some folks who that's what they do professionally, is those kind of CAT scans, MRIs and stuff that freak people out. And it's like, okay, this will help with peace. White knuckled flyers. I have a friend that was going on a fabulous trip to Iceland, but she had to get on a plane to do it. And she said, I'm one of these. And she said it's the best flight she'd have ever. Is just, and I've heard that several times with people with flying. Peace is also used with the REM patch, which I'll talk about in a minute. So you'll hear this again, because sometimes it's, your stress. And so that's what you need, is to be peaceful. Remember, I talked to you just a minute ago about Lumi and GI issues. The peace patch also really helps with upset stomachs, because what I just said, your stomach is upset. And my sister used the peace patch when she had COVID, because she had that version that was really GI messed up one. And I said, you have some peace patches, use them. And she said, I've had coffee today for the first time and my stomach is not crazy. So yes, peace really helps with that. I just had another friend who had GI tract issues, but it was stomach upset. I said, you have peace patches, put them on. And the next day she said, I don't have GI issues. My stomach's fine now. I was like, yes, it helps, because your stomach was upset. It needs to be peaceful. Okay. So little anecdotes here and there. REM, we've talked about that a little bit. Sometimes REM, it does help us calm us. Sometimes it works best with the peace patch. It's quiets down your monkey brain, and it also helps you to dream. A lot of people experience much better dreaming, or dreaming for the first time. There's a video that we saw in Florida, and I know it's somewhere, but it was now several months ago, so I'm not sure how to find it fast. But one of the spokespeople was talking about that was the patch he got started on. He hadn't dreamed in decades, and the REM patch, all of a sudden he was dreaming. It wasn't a bad dream, it was a good dream. So that, and I have several friends who are now just sold on the REM patch. I use it sometimes, and it really does help. Okay, now Rocket is the only patch I haven't tried. So Tommy, would you like to explain the Rocket patch? Well, the Rocket patch was initially designed for men, of a certain age, or maybe not. I've heard that women use it too. I haven't used it, but apparently it makes you rather energetic.
I tried it like 1 or 2 days. I didn't really know what to look for. It's not something I use, but we've had a lot of testimonials from people that
Exactly.
experience lots of different things from that, and men
Exactly.
and women.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
definitely worth looking up in the testimonial page on Facebook, because there is a lot of stuff in there about it.
Exactly. Thank you, Tommy. Okay, the last one that was in the big sheet was the Victory patch. And Victory is very similar to Liberty, but one of the big distinctions between Liberty and Victory is that Victory focuses on the large muscle groups and recovery. It's used a lot by athletes. It helps with recovery. When you're really working out, you're also creating inflammation because you're stretching your muscles and working them, and then they get a little bit hurt, and then they repair and they're better. Well, Victory really helps with that. It also helps with energy. And the rest of it sounds a lot like Liberty, but I know that Jane, for one, has had a lot of different issues with it, a lot of different experience with Victory that she didn't have with Liberty. Boost is one of the newest patches. It does boost energy without caffeine, without side effects. One of the things it did for me was it boosted my mood. I don't know. That was the first thing I noticed. It wasn't that I needed more energy, but it boosted my mood. The other thing I just noticed a couple this past week is I told you I had an issue with bug bites. And I'm going away next week. And so I really wanted them to be gone. And, as we're older, sometimes things take longer to fix. Well, so I broke down and took a Benadryl, antihistamines. And I only take one because I don't take medications. And so when I take one, it really gets me. So the first day I was like, "Ugh, ugh." And I took it another day and I thought, I'm going to use the boost patch. It counteracted the sleepiness of my antihistamine. I was so happy because not only was, the bug bite repairing itself, because sometimes every once in a while they get worse than they're supposed to be. It was repairing itself and I had energy. So that was really cool. So now we get to the last one, which is the flow patch. And we're going to shift over to Janet now. But I had a couple more things I needed to tell you that are just little phrases because I wrote them down here and they're fun. Tommy did say that the patches were magic. I'm going to say they're not magic. We are. Our bodies are amazing. And what the patches do is help our bodies get back to where they started, to repair the stuff that we broke. Some people have said that the little patch is like a QR code, and it connects with the piece of the nervous system that the patch is supposed to address, and then it helps it repair itself. It untangles itself. This is one great little line I had. If my hard drive is corrupted, fixing my keyboard won't help. And that's why the patches are what they are. They attach to the nerve portion that they're designed to untangle and help us repair. And it helps us repair them because we're amazing. They don't expire, as you know. And one last thing I will say, because I am a scientist, I will not apologize about that. The Nobel Prize in Physics and Medicine in 2001 was for the discovery of the electrical transducers in our skin. And that's one of the things that Jay was able to start off with. That there was a lot of data that went before that. 2001, it usually takes 10 or 20 years to get a Nobel Prize for something. That was pretty quick. But that's one of the things that was proven in that and awarded by the Nobels was about our skin. We are electrical. So anyway, that's where I'm going to stop now. A bunch of little anecdotes. I hope you enjoyed it. And Janet's going to talk a little bit more about flow because she knows more about it than I do.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Dr. Janet Sheffs, a chiropractor. I was in New York City, practicing for 35 years in the right smack in the middle of Manhattan, and these patches just fit right in to what the chiropractic philosophy is, and that is that they are a tool. They're a tool that we give our body to help it heal itself because nobody heals itself. Nobody heals us. Medicines don't heal us. Medicines generally just mask everything. So I wish I had this in my practice. I totally do, because I would have every single person I ever met using these patches. But anyway, I do want to say real fast to Lissa, I loved physics, and I had the same saying about organic chemistry that you do about physics. So I guess we make a good team. Anyway, the reason that I'm popping in on here, the main reason right now, it's going to be very short, but the reason is that we have the the focus patch and the flow patch, and some people think that since they have the flow patch, they don't need the focus patch will be overkill. Well, I just want to tell you that's not true. The focus patch, as Lissa told us, is it's for enhanced focus and attention and clarity in the moment for something that you're doing. Okay. The flow patch, I don't know why I have peace on the mind, but the flow patch is new to me. Some people on this call have had it and had amazing results. I couldn't wait to get it, which I did, and I'll talk a lot more about it next week. But the difference between the focus and the flow, focus is in the moment you're focusing on a specific task, but you're still hearing other things and you could still be distracted, but it's to help you be less distracted and focus on the task at hand. The flow patch happens to be a very, very intricate patch, and it works on there are 5 cognitive networks in the body, neural networks. Okay, so it's networks of nerves, and the flow patch works with 5 of those networks that are all intertwined and all make us who we are as individuals, and our minds work. The flow patch works with total immersion and focus. Total immersion. Have you ever been doing something and you're doing it and you're concentrating so hard that you don't even know what's going on around you? That's what the flow patch helps. Okay, it's effortless control. Okay, it's creative breakthroughs. It helps with motivation that doesn't burn out, and it gives us a deep sense of purpose and progress. So what I'm trying to say here is that the flow is like the overall general being, and then the focus helps us even pinpoint it for a short period of times. Now, somebody on this call will know exactly what I'm talking about, but you can tell, Carrie, when I'm in the flow using my cognitive networks, because I'll be sticking my tongue out like this. When I stick my tongue out, I am in total concentration. Just like Michael Jordan, when he's doing his thing, which is basketball, he's got his tongue hanging out all the time. My dad did it, I did it. So if you ever see anybody with their tongue sticking out, don't bother them because they're not even going to hear you. Okay? So they're not independent of each other. The flow patch helps and works with the focus patch. And together, it enhances your focus and your attention synergistically and exponentially. Okay? So if you want momentary attention to detail, that's the focus patch. But if you want attention to detail overall and just overall sense of being, the flow patch is it. So I say both of them are, and I have them both on right now. And the flow patch, I'm very excited about it.